daily basis. That led us to this opportunity for research in this hospital environment with this microbiologist by the name of Jennifer Edmonds. She came and spoke in our convention model several different times. She sent me this letter. She had looked at several different varieties of our essential oils. She looked at tea tree, she looked at cloves, she looked at thyme, oregano, and she looked at On Guard, and there were a few others. And she wanted to know its ability to control these more difficult types of infections to which much of the time there is no antibiotic answer to. And she sent me this letter because her initial research had demonstrated that the essential oils were very effective. But listen to what she says. This is a pretty cool letter. How would you like to get a letter like this? Dear Dr. Hill, there have been some discussions that On Guard only inhibited and did not kill MRSA. She studied 17 different strains of MRSA. And the complicated fact of that is there's gram-positive, there's gram-negative. It gets to be quite difficult, actually, especially in a gram-negative sense. And she said On Guard only inhibited and did not kill MRSA. So I set up a protocol to determine whether or not it actually did. Well, it does. I'm working on narrowing down the time frame. It should be able to come to a closer range than I have now. It's less than 14 hours exposure to kill the organism, but it takes more like 5 minutes. Details to follow. Have a great week, Jennifer. These are the types of things that we experienced very early on with doTERRA. Match that to some of what you heard yesterday as Corey talked with you about the importance of our sourcing model and the quality of our essential oils and why we're so concerned about those things. And so this was really monumental for us, and it's led us in the long run to have this opportunity where we now have a full complement of essential oils in the On Guard framework. And they're all designed to give you opportunity to enhance, to stabilize, to increase your immune function within your body. Immunity fits into one of two categories for us. Now there's different types of immunity, and I'm not going to go into any of that detail today. But in the general sense, when we think about immunity, we ourselves fit into one of two categories. We're either in the category where our immune system might be functioning fully well, at its full capacity, but we do live in a time where we are exposed to things that supersede our immune capability. That's problem number one. Most of us, however, because one of the great compromises to immunity is poor nutrition, stress, chronic inflammation, and toxicity, the four main things that every single one of us in this room have exposure to consistently reduce our body's immune capability. And that puts us in a state of vulnerability because now I have less than optimal immune function, and I also still have the vulnerabilities that are associated with a world and an environment that poses threats that supersede my body's immune capability, even when it's functioning fully well. And so we have some difficulty. That has led us recently, and you've heard me talk about Johns Hopkins briefly before. I'm not going to share any detail with you today because you don't normally do that when research is about ready to be published. And that's what's happened now with Johns Hopkins. We've been studying with them for more than 2 years. I remember when I was talking with Corey and Dave about the expense that we would have associated with this, there was some trepidation. And now we've been in this 2-year process, and they've yet to see even one single report come from Johns Hopkins. Can I show you just one little tiny piece? They're gonna, not a big piece though. Sorry, Wes, can't do that. They are going to publish the first of 4 papers that will name and include doTERRA sometime within the next month or 2. One of the things that they have discovered, I mentioned briefly about gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Gram-negative is really kind of the holy grail. That's the one that's really, really difficult. I will tell you in their study, we have found some of our oils that 100% control all of gram-positive infection, 100%. And then we have mixed results with, I shouldn't be telling you this, mixed results with gram-negative. I was just on a phone call with them last week, and they are very excited. Patricia was telling me, she said, Dave, did you know this about the oils? And I said, I didn't know that. And she shared with me an oil that they tested every single one of our oils, every blend, every single, and anytime we get a new oil, we send it right to them, and they put it right in their protocol. She has discovered one of our oils that kills 100% of all gram-positive and gram-negative. Isn't that remarkable? Now, I promised her associate Rose that I would not tell you which oil did that. So I can't really say anything to you today. But some of you are with me this morning. That's good. Some of you are still alive and awake in this process. So that's good. We're discovering new things about the essential oil. Can I tell you why we care about that in doTERRA? To be honest with you, for me personally, it's very arduous. It consumes a huge amount of my time. In addition to all the travel and everything else and responsibilities that we have, that also consumes a huge amount of my time. I'm forever on phone calls. Yesterday I left here a few minutes early because I needed to jump on a conference call for some research. It is a continuous process for us, and the only reason we care about things like this is it gives us the confidence we need to move forward. It gives us the confidence that we need in spite of what anyone else says, whether that's an individual or that's another company. It gives us the confidence to know that we are in good company, that we have great opportunity right here within doTERRA. But then we also want to translate that into, it provides opportunity for you and I to know how to use the essential oils in their most effective form. So use the On Guard products. Each one of them have been formulated around some of these simple premises of how essential oils don't necessarily bolster the cells of your immunity, but they provide secondary and additional immune responses for you that become really powerful, even when your body has its own compromise. We talked about some of that yesterday. It's critical that we learn how to fortify ourselves. So use the On Guard products. Now, if we look at On Guard, talk a little bit about chemistry, we can break it down into 4 very specific chemistry types. One, wild orange, is monoterpenes. All oils have monoterpenes. All essential oils, regardless of what it is, has some ability to help protect your body, to give your body some type of a sequence that is protective in the regards of what we've been talking about, immunity. So, but then there's phenols, aldehydes, and alcohols. So let me talk about them just briefly. Now, at On Guard, we have eucalyptus and rosemary, but how many of you love lavender essential oil? I mean, I know that Kirk Jowers loves lavender essential oil because last night, while Corey and I couldn't sleep, we were dealing issues back in Utah all night long. And at about 7 a.m. this morning, we get a text finally from Kirk Jowers that says, wow, a lot happened while I was sleeping. I guess lavender and cedarwood, I think was the other one you said, worked really well for me. If I'd known that, I'd have gone and woke him up. I'd have gone and banged down his door so he could have been involved with this last night. So you all probably know about lavender in those contexts and some of the things that I see here. I always divide essential oils into 2 categories. One is daily use, daily prevention, and then one is controlling symptoms. So on a daily use model, we might use something like lavender to really kind of help and manage, control some of the stress that we feel on an ongoing basis. But in symptom control, we're all very familiar with this too. It's good for burns, it's good for bug bites and stings, it's great for wound healing, it's excellent for allergies, and we're coming into a time back in the States where that's a real prevalent thing, and so a lot of people are turning to lavender. But here's probably what you didn't know about lavender, and all oils have some properties this way. Now there's something known in your body as the leukocytic index, and the leukocytic index is really kind of interesting. It describes some of the capability of your body's immune system. In other words, there's some efficiency associated with some of the cells of your body's immunity. And the more efficient they are, you can capitalize on that by ranking that on an empirical scale. And so the higher the rating, the leukocytic index, the more efficient your system is. Some of the ways that your cells of your immunity work is that you have cells that are specialized that actually release nitric oxide, and it kills the organism. It's a free radical, and so it destroys the membrane and it destroys the organism itself. One of the things that's really interesting about lavender essential oil, it's been studied and it's been shown to enhance the body's ability to do that, to produce nitric oxide through your immune response by 150%. So even though we much of the time use essential oils in a specific framework or category of what our personal preference is, know that the broad cast of essential oils would suggest that they do things that go far beyond what we might traditionally understand, which means for you and I, there's great value in even doing the simplest of things with essential oils. Using them does not have to be complicated, even though at times we use them because we have difficult circumstances. We have health challenges that go beyond our expertise, for example. But how we use the essential oils and why we use the essential oils always remains constant. Now let me talk about Kirk Jower's new favorite oil I just discovered, and that's cinnamon and cassia. Now cinnamon and cassia have some similar benefits. They fall into this category of aldehydes chemically. And aldehydes, one of the things that we learned from Johns Hopkins is that aldehydes are particularly successful at destroying many different types of microorganisms. If we look at them structurally, there's some similarities, but there's some pretty strong differences between them too. When I look at chemistry of oils, I break them into primary, secondary, and tertiary compounds. In other words, what's dominant and what is less dominant in terms of the chemistry itself. And you can see that the primary compounding in both cinnamon and in cassia is an aldehyde known as cinnamon aldehyde. The difference here is that cinnamon aldehyde in cinnamon is around 40 to 50%. In cassia, it can be about 85%. So Kirk, you should be happy you didn't use cassia. You would have smelled probably for about 2 or 3 weeks. But it might have been, I was alarmed to hear you talking about the aphrodisiac qualities of cinnamon. But maybe cassia would have helped you even more. Just a little tidbit for you personally. And in secondary, I know I shouldn't have said that. Secondary compounds, we have, look at the difference here. We've got phenols, and phenols themselves are also strongly anti-infectious. You can use cinnamon and cassia anytime you want to for infections. They will be equally effective one with another. But I will tell you there's some other reasons why I like cinnamon and I like cassia as a part of what we're doing. Now remember, we have cinnamon in On Guard, and that's why I'm highlighting this a little bit, to draw some confidence back to the formulations that we have with many of our blends. It's interesting how bacteria communicate one with another. You're all familiar with superbugs. There's a full gamut now of different types of superbugs that we deal with. The one constant that exists, regardless of the variation that exists between the types of organisms, is they must communicate one with another. And in fact, communication is so important. It's known that one of the ways you can destroy microorganisms is you can isolate their communication ability. If you can isolate communication, then they themselves are not going to thrive, and chances are will be destroyed. Now, superbugs is an extreme form of communication, and it's something known as quorum sensing. And I want you to think of this in a, not to be inappropriate, but it's kind of like microorganism sex. And that is that I can exchange with you and you with me. And I've been exposed to a lot of different things, and I've been able to reconstruct my own DNA to be more resilient. And I'm happy to share that with you, but you've got to give me something in return. And so they share their genetic coding one with another, and they actually form colonies. It's a colonization that takes place. Something really cool about something as simple as cassia and cinnamon is that it destroys the ability for microorganisms to have quorum sensing. they're unable to have this communication exchange. And so when we look at